I'm Starr, professor of psychology, and I'd like to begin by asking, have you ever found yourself reacting strongly to someone else's behavior, only to wonder later why it bothered you so much? Or maybe you've had a moment when a side of yourself, angry, envious, or impulsive, suddenly emerged, catching even you by surprise. These experiences might be glimpses of what Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, represents the hidden side of our personality. The parts we repress, deny, or ignore because they don't fit the image we want to have of ourselves. But don't misunderstand me. The shadow isn't inherently bad. It's not a villain lurking in your psyche. Instead, it's more like an unloved sibling waiting to be acknowledged and understood. Let's take a step back and unpack this. From the time we're young, we learn what's acceptable and what's not from our families, schools, and society. Maybe you were taught that expressing anger was impolite, so you swallowed it down. Or perhaps you learned that vulnerability made you appear weak, so you built walls to hide it. Over time, these disowned traits don't disappear. They settle into the shadow, quietly shaping your behavior from behind the scenes. Here's the fascinating part. The shadow often reveals itself through projection. That's when we unconsciously attribute our disowned qualities to others. For instance, if you secretly struggle with feelings of laziness, you might harshly judge a coworker for not pulling their weight. Or if you've repressed your own need for attention, you might find yourself irritated by someone who thrives in the spotlight. Sound familiar? That's the shadow at work. But don't worry, this isn't a diagnosis of doom. In fact, shadow work, or the process of understanding and integrating these hidden parts of ourselves, can lead to profound personal growth. Jung believed that by facing our shadow, we could become more whole, more authentic. How do we begin this work? First, let me say, this isn't about judgment. It's about curiosity. Start by paying attention to those strong emotional reactions. When someone frustrates or annoys you, ask yourself, what exactly am I reacting to? Could this behavior reflect something within me that I've avoided confronting? This isn't easy, it takes courage to see yourself clearly, but the reward is greater self-awareness. Next, try journaling. Reflect on situations where you felt triggered, embarrassed, or ashamed. These moments can hold clues to your shadow. Write freely without filtering or trying to sound good. Remember, the shadow thrives in secrecy, and bringing it into the light is the first step to understanding it. For those who want to go deeper, consider therapy. A trained therapist can guide you safely through this process, helping you uncover patterns you might not see on your own. But even on your own, small steps matter. Self-reflection, mindfulness, and a willingness to look inward can bring surprising insights. Now, you might wonder, what's the point of all this? Why stir up the parts of yourself you've worked so hard to suppress? Here's why. The shadow isn't just a repository for your so-called bad traits. It also holds your hidden potential. The talents you've dismissed, the passions you've downplayed, the strength you've underestimated, they're all there waiting for you. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When you confront your shadow, you reclaim your power. Instead of being controlled by impulses you don't understand, you start making choices aligned with your true self. So, as you leave this video, I encourage you to embrace this journey, not as a chore or a fix-it project, but as an act of self-love. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's a part of you, longing to be seen, heard, and integrated. And as you do this work, you'll not only understand yourself better, you'll find it easier to extend that understanding to others. After all, we're all carrying shadows, aren't we? The question is whether we're brave enough to face them.